Welcome back everyone to a video, and today we're talking about the Rams' seemingly very improbable rebuild. They've already, I don't want to say completed, but they're 10-6. They're in the playoffs. A lot of people did not see this coming just a couple seasons ago after that Super Bowl win. It seems like they kind of went all in to throw their picks at bringing in, Jalen Ramsey. You sent away Goff, you brought in Stafford, and it paid off. You won a Super Bowl with Aaron Donald. All was well, but then after that, it was very clear this team was starting to lose a lot of talent, and they had to address it very quickly, or else they were going to be in a very bad spot. And, well, what do you know? They drafted very, very well, despite losing one of the best defensive players of all time, not even just on their team or their franchise of all time in Aaron Donald. They are honestly pretty good at defensive line on the defensive line this year. The team as a whole has played very shaky at times. They've also dealt with injuries, and despite all those things, they are finding themselves at 10-6. Could finish season at 11-6 or 10-7, doesn't really matter at this point. Regardless, a very impressive record for where this team stood just a couple seasons ago. So starting out with Stafford, I'm going to do a brief little recap of this year, then we're going to get to some of their picks and how that's kind of gone this way for them. So just real quick, Matthew Stafford this year, 3,762 passing yards, 20 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. Solid year from him. I think he's just always one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. He's always just an amazing arm talent. I don't think he gets a whole lot of recognition for that. He was throwing those no-look passes 7 years ago. Didn't get a lot of credit for it then, but still, amazing quarterback. He's having a solid season. Rushing-wise, Kyren Williams, 1,299 yards and 14 touchdowns. It's kind of fun to think back to the beginning of the season. Everybody that played fantasy football is freaking out because the Rams were supposed to have Kyren at punt returner, and that could increase his chance at injury, and was it worth it to draft him? Well, if you played fantasy football and you drafted Kyren Williams, I'd say you're probably very happy with that selection. Kyren is an amazing player. He hit like 1,000 yards rushing last year, and he missed 6 games. This year, 1,300 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. Amazing player. And then receiving-wise, Puka Nacua, 990 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. Again, he's missed time. Cooper Kupp, 710, 6 touchdowns. Once again, he's also missed time. Tutu Atwell's had a pretty, sneaky good season. 525, no touchdowns, but he's been very reliable for them. Also, though, Demarcus Robinson, 7 receiving touchdowns this year, 433 yards. Speaking of reliable, that's Demarcus Robinson. He's been very good in the red zone for them. He's had a few big plays as well. It's been a very well-rounded year for the Rams. At times where they've had to miss time with Puka or Cooper Kupp, other guys have been able to step up, like Demarcus Robinson, like Tutu Atwell. Someone else I want to kind of give a little shout out to is Jordan Whittington, 207 yards, no touchdowns. But I have to say, in the coming seasons, especially next year, maybe Cooper Kupp, maybe he's there next year, maybe he's not, who knows, crazy things have happened. But Jordan Whittington is a name to watch. The guy's from Texas. He had a very impressive preseason. He's been solid at times this year, hasn't got a whole lot of time, but when he's been in, I think they have something there, and I would not be surprised if he steps up big time, whether they're to lose Cooper Kupp or even if, someone else goes down to injury or leaves in free agency, whatever it may be. Jordan Whittington is a name to watch in that receiving room. However, defense is where this gets very interesting. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this ring, so I really want to go to the roster. But you have guys like Jared Verse in his first year with 11 tackles for loss. You have Kobe Turner in his second year with 10 tackles for loss. Byron Young, I believe, in his second year. Where did it just go? 12 tackles for loss. Braden Fiske in his first year, 10 tackles for loss. This is a defensive line that is able to get after the running back early on, get those plays for, even just 2 yards, for loss. All of a sudden that could have been a, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 8. That might have been the difference on that play. It's those small things that you have to do right to, keep yourself moving forward in the game, to give yourself more of a chance down the stretch. The Rams do that, and that's why they win some of those close games. That's why they are a tough team to beat, even if they aren't, flashy at times with guys hurt, is that they just do a lot of the small things correctly, and it's great coaching from McVay's part, obviously. But again, a lot of young talent here, and I want to talk about just how they got here. But again, Fiske also defensive tackle, first year, 8 sacks. You have Jared Verse, his first year, linebacker, 4.5 sacks. Byron Young, second year, 7 sacks. A lot of guys stepping up and coming up huge for the Rams, and it is directly responsible for why they're so successful this early on. And I wouldn't even call this a rebuild at this point. You just kind of retooled, I guess, and you're looking pretty good. So again, I already touched on the offense. I want to go back down to the defense here and zoom in, so hopefully this is big enough for you guys to see and all. So let's start with Braden Fiske, though. So him and Jared Verse are actually teammates at Florida State. And it's funny because Jared Verse, whenever I saw him just some of his stuff from college last year, and then also whenever I was doing mock drafts, he was projected to go very high at times. I saw him going as high as 8 to the Falcons. Obviously, they took a huge wild card pick on Penix. No one expected that at the time. But, Verse was considered to be one of the better edge rushers in this draft. And it was also no secret that with the Rams losing Aaron Donald, they were probably going to go defense. And that's what they did. They picked Braden Fiske and they picked Jared Verse. Both are big hits in year one. And both are on the D line. It's incredible to me. It's hard to hit for first round picks. I think it's very easy to think like, oh, the first round pick guy, big name, he's going to be good. Obviously it's not always the case. I hate to do this, but a good example would be Emmanuel Forbes, who the Rams have now. Washington picked him one pick before Christian Gonzalez. And that's kind of how that turned out. So you kind of see what I'm getting at. But Braden Fiske specifically, so we have 20 tackles, 8 sacks, 4 defensive tackle. This guy's very athletic. I'm not sure if you guys saw the play where he ran back. I think it was a fumble, and it didn't count. But I mean, he's very athletic for his size. He's very fast. He's very aggressive, and he's very, very good in year one for the Rams. And again, this has been a huge part of their success. And because no Aaron Donald, someone had to fill those shoes. It's impossible to fill Aaron Donald's shoes, but you can do something to kind of band-aid it, or at least kind of slowly transition to no Aaron Donald, because obviously it's a huge loss. I mean, he would make up of 2 of the offensive linemen, sometimes 3, trying to double or triple team him. So without him, obviously things look a lot different. But when you have guys that are this good in year one that demand respect from the offensive line, it does a lot for your defense as a whole. So then again, Jared Verse, 35 tackles, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Again, he was their round 1 pick, and I think you hit on him. I think you hit on Fiske. I think you honestly couldn't have done it better, considering what your team needs were. And it can be very risky to kind of double up on that same position early on in the draft. Obviously, teams have done it before, and it has not worked out super well. This is kind of not quite the same example, but you could say last year with the Patriots picking Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, doubling up on wide receiver, didn't work out for him. Not quite the same situation, but you kind of see what I'm, kind of getting at there. Considering Labaconki was on the board, looks a little worse now. But Jared Verse is a phenomenal player, and I think, honestly, in year one, you really couldn't have asked for much more than this, because it's just giving your team a chance to win at the spot you were. Maybe coaches would admit it. Who knows if they're really honest, but they had to have been afraid without Aaron Donald, because he was, I don't want to say your defense, but when you have an all-time great like that, I don't think it can be properly stated just how huge of a loss that is for your entire defense because of what he, demanded from the offense. You had to always know where Donald was. You had to always have probably 2 guys on him. If it was one-on-one, you're asking for him to win the rep, basically. So again, I think they were probably afraid at that spot this year. And while obviously you can't replace Donald's production, you can definitely help smooth over the, hole that he left. And I think right now they're doing that very, very well, while also somehow playing for meaningful football in January. Also, a shout out to Byron Young, too, a second-year guy. I think it's also easy to overlook him, but again, 7 sacks for him, 33 tackles. I do think that it's easy to just not, see the way it all comes together. But, Byron Young, is this what I just clicked on? Did I just do the exact same thing? Yeah, I did. I did do the exact same thing. I meant to click on Kobe Turner, but again, this is another round 2 guy for the D-line, 35 tackles, 8 sacks for them. I mean, when you have a lot of guys just playing, the correct way and getting those reps in there at a spot where, you had nothing basically going into this year, a big question mark. I think truly the Rams' ability to draft well, specifically this year for defensive line, has been literally the difference in them being out of the playoffs and being in the playoffs. And again, I'll show the offense some more love as well. When you have guys like Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, obviously, Jordan Whittington, I just have a good feeling about him. I think he's a good player. And then you have, Blake Corum, hasn't done a ton this year, but we can see how he gets involved, in the years, after this. So I think the Rams are set up well. I think you obviously have to be thinking quarterback right now, not really as a super big team need, but it just has to be on the back burner. I feel like it just has to be. Not sure whether they'd go, veteran, or would you try and draft? I'm not really sure. I'm not going to think that far ahead. The point of this video is just to talk about why the Rams are this good this year, in a year where they could have very easily been, 7-10 instead of potentially 10-7 after this week. They could have been, 6-11 instead of potentially 11-6 this week. But everything came together, and the Rams are just a well-rounded team, from coach to quarterback to weapons, to O-line, to the defensive line, to the secondary. Everything is just very solid for them. They all play very well together. I truly don't think you could have asked for much more than this, because I think, in my opinion, this exceeds expectations for the Rams. I think some people, just Stafford's amazing, offense is amazing, we'll worry about the defense when it gets to it kind of thing. For this year, they'd still be good. I don't think that was properly, maybe thought through just how bad the loss of Aaron Donald would be. But then when you have, the young guys playing like this, and clearly, good coaching, the front office has a vision for this team, you can see it come together in real time, and it's pretty cool to see that when all the young guys are playing well together and the team is still taking strides despite what, their experience should be probably hurting, or their lack of experience should probably be hurting them. But here we are with the playoffs. So comment down below what you guys think of this Rams rebuild or retool, whatever you want to call it at this point, and also how effective they'll be in the playoffs. Are they just going to sneak in and then lose by 100, or are they one of those teams you have to watch out for that will burn you and potentially go on a little bit of a run? In my opinion, I think the Rams are definitely a sneaky team to watch in the playoffs. They can do some serious damage. And again, we'll get there when we get there. Playoff predictions are coming as soon as they are officially set after this Sunday, so be on the lookout for that video. Thanks for watching. I do really appreciate it. Coming up also, playoff predictions. We also have a video on Cam Ward. I've already kind of have that outlined. Video on Ashton Genty. As far as the draft guys go, take a little break from that. Go back to NFL, kind of do some recap for this year. As far as a couple other things, then some tier lists for sure. And then we'll also get to Travis Hunter at some point too. So a lot of videos on the way. If you like the NFL, if you like, mock drafts, anything like that, it's always what this channel is. Tier lists, all that kind of thing. Team rankings, player rankings. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel for content like that. I would really appreciate it on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.